My husband announced our divorce on stage at a National Education Awards ceremony. I used to believe that a place meant to honor intellect would never be the place to break my heart. 600 people. White lights. A giant LED screen projecting our wedding photo. Grant and me, laughing hand in hand, like forever was real. The MC had just finished my introduction when Grant stepped up to the podium. He didn't smile, just took the mic, inhaled. Celeste and I are ending our marriage right here. A spoon dropped. Silent panic rippled through the room. Evelyn emerged from backstage, red dress, standing beside him like I'd never existed. The camera panned to my face. I didn't cry. I simply adjusted my dress strap and smiled. A smile that made Grant's assistant take a step back, though he didn't yet know why. They thought I would fall apart that night, but exactly 1 week later, the hospital called me, with news that made Grant kick in his own front door in panic. Subscribe and take a guess. What did he do that night? I was the kid no one believed in. Not because I lied, but because no one thought someone like me could ever amount to anything. I grew up on the west side of Baltimore. 4th-floor apartment, leaking ceilings, cold wind in the winter, hot air swirling in summer because the fan only blew the heat around. My mom worked night shifts as a nurse. Every morning she'd come home, kick off her shoes on the carpet, sit down on the floor, and say nothing. My father died when I was 6. No accident, no illness. His heart just stopped, and everything went quiet from there. I studied by the window. The desk lamp was too dim, so I had to press my notebook close to my face. Some nights I waited for the streetlight to shine through just to make out the words. Still, I studied, not for anyone, just because I believed. I wasn't born just to survive. In 12th grade, I told the principal I wanted to apply to Harvard. She tilted her head, glanced at my file, and gave a small smile. Celeste, maybe you should think a little more realistically. No malice, just the voice of someone who'd watched too many black students give up halfway. That night, I studied next to the kitchen sink. Beside me, a stack of old library books. No tutors, no prep classes. My mom had fallen asleep in the chair, still in her hospital uniform, her lunchbox unopened. I stuck Post-it notes all over my bedroom wall, built my own classroom with nothing but red pens and determination. When the acceptance letter came, I didn't go to school to announce it. I just mailed the principal a postcard. No congratulations, no long message, just 3 handwritten words, right in the center. I got in. The statewide education conference that year was in Boston. I was the youngest speaker, also the only black person in the entire auditorium. My speech was short. I talked about the kids with no Wi-Fi, no desks, no one waiting at home. When I stepped off stage, a man approached me. Gray suit, tie neatly knotted, eyes sharp like he was already measuring something. He shook my hand, never broke eye contact. "You're not like the others." I smiled gently, unsure what he meant. Maybe he was calling me strong, or smart, or something I'd never dared to call myself. I thought it was special attention. It took me years to realize. It was a separation. A line drawn, subtly, deliberately, and I had crossed it without even knowing. I married Grant on a clear blue day. The wedding was held in his mother's garden, perfectly trimmed like a chessboard. His relatives came from everywhere, all with polite smiles. I remember his mother whispering to her friend, "Well, at least she knows how to choose a dress." I didn't let it bother me. Back then, I still believed that love could open doors I was never invited to walk through. I kept teaching. Kept writing proposals for community education programs. Even as the event calendars filled up and my dresses faded to softer tones. Grant told me I was doing well. "You make a lovely impression. Bright, but not too bold." I thought I was balancing both worlds. A home built in love. A career rooted in ideals. I was wrong, because in some places, my presence always had to be adjusted. I used to be the face of the organization, wrote the mission, took the stage. My name came first. Then, slowly, Evelyn started showing up more. First as head of communications, then as the spokesperson, eventually the one signing on my behalf in meetings I wasn't invited to. I said nothing, still smiled gently, like a carefully placed element in a gallery painting. Never too loud, never erased, just stepped back. Enough. At a dinner party, Grant's mother raised a glass to the guests, eyes fixed on me. She's well-meaning, but still just a charity girl, isn't she? I smiled too, clinked my glass, then turned away. Something cracked quietly inside me. Not loud enough for anyone to notice, but deep enough that I never forgot it. That morning, I opened my email like usual. The subject line, updated speaker list, International Education Forum. An event I'd headlined 3 years in a row. I scrolled down. My name wasn't there. In the spot that used to be mine, Evelyn Hart, Director of Strategic Development. No explanation, no internal message, no one asked if I was available that day. I sat still, staring at the screen. Not angry, not surprised, just the hollow feeling of someone silently removing your name from a door once engraved with it. I didn't react, didn't write back, didn't ask why. I simply sipped my cold tea, and for the first time I didn't feel like I was sitting in my own home anymore. After that, I stopped speaking so much. I started saving every email where my name was replaced, took screenshots of edited conversations, noted the dates, the times, who spoke, and who stayed silent. I no longer tried to explain or fight for a seat at the meeting. I let them have the chair, quietly, deliberately. One day, Grant asked why I'd become so reserved. I just smiled. I'm observing. Silence may seem weak at first, but for me, it was strategic retreat. Because I knew. The loudest voice in the room isn't always the one in control. Sometimes, the one quietly remembering is the one who rewrites the whole story. I've kept an old, water-stained piece of paper, folded in quarters. Malik gave it to me during my first year teaching in a makeshift school on the south side. The classroom had 8 chairs, a chipped whiteboard. I had to mop the floor each morning before the kids came in. Malik sat in front. Always sleepy, he watched his baby sister at night, but he never missed a deadline. One afternoon, he slipped the note into my hand and ran off. It had only one line, "You make me want to grow up." I read that sentence over and over through the years I spent with Grant, more times than anyone in his world ever told me I was inspiring. I used to think I needed validation from big rooms, but it turns out, a shaky sentence from a boy years ago was the reason I stayed in this work. I once believed that if I worked hard enough, my child wouldn't have to knock on doors the way I did. I prepared Elijah's application meticulously. Every line of achievements, recommendation letters, photos of extracurriculars, Beacon Ridge School, where Grant studied, where my mother-in-law once said, "It's a school for children born to succeed." 3 weeks later, the response arrived. "We appreciate Elijah's application. However, the school seeks students aligned with the academy's image and reputation." No mention of his accomplishments, no specific reason, just not the right image. I folded the letter, set it on the table, and, for the first time in my life as a mother, I felt powerless. Not because my son wasn't enough, but because my son carried my last name. The organization once bore my name when it was founded. I wrote the slogan, chose the brand colors, walked door to door to secure the first sponsorships. That morning, I checked the website out of habit. The Meet the Team section now showed only Evelyn, centered, arms folded, wearing a confident smile. Beneath, her new title, Chief Executive Officer. I scrolled down, looking for the Founder section. It was gone. The entire description had been rewritten. Clean, tidy, as if I had never existed in the very place I created. No one called, no one asked. Everything had already been decided. There's something strange about watching your own fingerprints, wiped away so neatly, it's as if you were never there. I didn't cry, I just saved the page, to remind myself I had once been part of it. I sat in the kitchen, the TV on low to fill the silence after dinner. A live talk show on minority education came on. The featured guest, Evelyn Hart. My name had held that spot 3 years in a row. Evelyn wore a cream blazer. The way she tilted her head, paused mid-sentence, smiled, I recognized it immediately. Those were my mannerisms. Then she said, "Children don't need pity. They need power to speak for themselves." I froze. That was the exact line from my speech at last year's summit. No mention, no citation, not even a footnote. I turned the TV off, but her voice lingered in my head, off-key this time. I wasn't sad about being replaced. I was sad that no one noticed. The person who wrote that line was still alive, just pushed out of frame. I stumbled across an internal report, forgotten among Grant's documents. The first page read, Ashford Foundation. Branding strategy, diversifying the narrative. A few pages in, I saw my photo. An old one, taken the day I received my full-ride college scholarship. Below it, a short note. Initial success case. Female, black, under-resourced background. Strong, inspirational appeal. No name, just a concise stat line. I remember crying back then, overcome with gratitude. I used to think I was chosen because I was worthy. Turns out I was chosen because I made others look benevolent. I folded the document back up, didn't take it, just sat there for a long time in that cold room. For the first time I felt I hadn't been seen, just used as an example. The meeting was arranged at the family estate, no Grant, just me and his mother. The living room was so quiet I could hear every tick of the wall clock. She opened a drawer and placed a folder on the glass table. The cover, non-disclosure agreement. She spoke softly. We're offering a goodwill settlement, $5 million. In exchange, you won't disclose Elijah's connection to Grant. I didn't react right away. I just looked at her, a woman raised to believe everything has a price, if labeled correctly. This isn't about attacking you, she added. It's about preserving the family's legacy. I nodded gently, closed the folder without reading it, stood up, didn't say a word, because sometimes silence is the clearest way to say, I am not for sale. I saw it on the front page of a high-end gossip site. The headline was sensational. A photo of me leaving a cafe, holding Elijah, eyes unfocused. But that wasn't what stopped me. It was the italicized quote in the middle of the article. I just want peace. No one asking where I belong anymore. That was something I'd said, on a rainy night, to the only friend who stuck around after the divorce. We were sipping wine. I spoke from the heart. She nodded in silence, listening. And now, my words had been used to paint me as an unstable woman. I didn't call, didn't ask why. I just deleted her name from my contacts, because some betrayals don't need a conversation, just a memory, to make sure they never happen again. That night, I was folding laundry in my room. The news played softly in the background. Elijah sat by the window drawing, the desk lamp casting a golden glow across his soft curls. I didn't say a word, just folded, again and again, like if my hands didn't stop, neither would my strength. Elijah looked up, set his crayon down, his voice even, gentle. Mom, are you sad? I froze. That question, no urgency, no drama, landed right on the spot I'd tried to hide. I turned around, smiled faintly. What makes you think that? He said. 'Cause you didn't sing today. I pulled him into my arms, didn't answer, just held him tighter, 'cause sometimes what hurts the most isn't the world turning its back. It's when your child is too young to understand, but old enough to see everything. The classroom was still full of laughter. The whiteboard still had chalk marks scribbled across, and I was still there, neutral-toned dress, grade sheets in hand, lesson plans printed out. But my eyes were hollow. A student raised her hand. Miss, what if you do everything right, and they still don't pick you? I paused mid-sentence. Something caught in my throat. She didn't know. That question was the same one I wrestled with every night. I smiled, keeping my voice steady. Keep doing right. Because sometimes, the ones who need to see you will. The room was quiet for a second. Then the buzz returned. Only I stood there, in a room full of life, with a chest so empty it hurt to breathe. Teaching was never the hard part. The hard part was hiding the wounds, behind every punctuation mark on the board. We met at a quiet cafe. Grant chose the place. No recorders, no lawyers, just two people who used to be married, separated by a cold wooden table. He didn't waste time. We should think about Elijah. I looked him in the eye for the first time in months. He spoke of stability, a good image for Elijah's future, how a unified family might restore trust with the board. I didn't need to ask why he suddenly cared. I had heard the news. The Ashford Trust was frozen, the clause, the heir must come from the first legal marriage, and now, Elijah was the last key. I took a sip of tea, voice calm. I've always thought about Elijah, you're just getting started. Grant sat still, trying to hold a composed face. I knew that look, the face of a man who was used to negotiating, calculating, and winning. He went on with a few more lines. Words dressed up as concern. For our child. Building a future. letting go of the past. I didn't respond, just quietly folded my bag and stood up, paused for a second before turning away, then said, "No dramatics, no emphasis. I'm Elijah's mother, not the savior of your family name." Grant froze, didn't say a word, and I didn't look back, just walked away. Each step on the floor, clear, firm, because some sentences don't need to be long. They just need to be right. And after that one, I knew I had nothing left to prove. I didn't hold a press conference, didn't write a heartfelt letter, didn't go on TV to cry or explain myself. I sent one email, no dramatic subject line, no emotional caption, just one audio file, exactly 1 minute and 43 seconds long. In it, my mother-in-law's voice rang clear. "We're offering $5 million. In return, you'll remain silent. Elijah is a private family matter. The media doesn't need to know." No threats, no insults, just the cold clarity of someone who's used to using money to clean up scandals. By the next morning, every major outlet had the same clip. No one asked me for anything else. No one questioned if I was unstable or after the money. I had done only one thing, used the truth. No shouting, just turned the mic on and let the truth speak for itself. That morning, I checked my phone like I always do, and saw my name everywhere on social media. Not from clickbait headlines, but from simple, heartfelt messages. She didn't shout, but everyone heard her. Hashtag Celeste did that, for everyone who's ever been erased from their own story. The hashtag started from a rural schoolteacher's account. Then it spread. Students, nurses, single moms, even a former housekeeper at the Ashford estate. I didn't reply to anyone, just watched the clips they edited, the captions they wrote, meant for me, but also for themselves. I never wanted to be a symbol, but sometimes one person standing up becomes the light for hundreds still bowed down. What about you? Have you ever been erased from something you built with your own hands? Comment. I'm still here. If you've survived that too. An old video resurfaced, slanted angle, poor lighting, but the voice was crystal clear. Evelyn, at last year's internal holiday party, scoffing at the mention of me. She was just the right skin tone at the right time. No one thought she'd last. Most didn't notice back then, but now? The clip went viral under "Now Celeste did that." Her company issued a swift statement. "We do not tolerate racial discrimination in any form." Terminated within 24 hours. No farewell party, no flowers, just a cold email. Exactly like how they treated me. I didn't feel joy, didn't need revenge, because this wasn't a victory. It was just a ripe apple falling in season, and every seed, sooner or later, returns with the fruit it sowed. The Ashford legal office released a short statement. Family assets will only transfer to direct heirs born of the first legal marriage. No one said my name. No one said Celeste. Just clauses, sealed in a will notarized more than 3 decades ago. Evelyn was out. Grant panicked, and among everyone left, only Elijah qualified. I didn't have to say the word, didn't go to court, didn't fight for justice, because the law spoke for itself. The estate Grant once brought me to, where they called me the charity girl, was now legally tied to the name Elijah M. Holloway. The power they once clung to with money and prestige, fractured by the very law they thought would protect them. Grant emailed me at 3 a.m. Subject line, "Let's talk," for Elijah's future. No apology, no mention of the past, just a cold, calculated letter, full of words like responsibility and public image. For the first time, he wasn't speaking from the heart. Maybe he never did. I finished reading it. Didn't feel anger, just a lightness. As if finally every mask had fallen, I placed my fingers on the keyboard, typed slowly, each word deliberate. No backspace, no edits. Legacy requires integrity. You lost both. No greeting, no signature, no postscript. I hit send, closed the laptop, and took Elijah outside to breathe in the morning sun. Because sometimes one sentence is the only closure you need. Elijah was born in a small room. No flashing cameras, no reporters, no bouquets brought in just for photos. Only warm yellow light, the scent of ginger tea, and my mother's hand in mine, firm, warm, slightly trembling. I was in pain, but not afraid. Exhausted, but not alone. Elijah cried for the first time at 2:14 a.m. Soft, clear, enough to make me cry with him. The nurse placed him on my chest, skin to skin. I pressed my cheek to his damp curls and whispered, "Hi, baby. We've begun." No one filmed it. No one clapped. Only the gentle sound of my mother's breath, and one trembling sentence from her lips. "He has your eyes." Peace has never felt so simple. The recovery room had a small window, fogged with cold air and quiet breath. Grant stood behind that glass. Didn't knock, didn't speak, just watched, as Elijah slept quietly on my chest. He wasn't allowed in, not out of hate, but out of boundaries, redefined by law and by me. I saw his silhouette stand there silently, alone in a white hallway, no one greeting him, no seat to rest, no cameras, no excuses, no power. My mother gently pulled the curtain closed. I didn't stop her, just looked down at Elijah, and smiled softly, as if to say to myself, "The world may try to reject me, but you never will." And on the other side of the glass, Grant understood that. For the first time, through silence, he knew. He had lost everything. The courtroom was bright, still, and cold. No reporters, no Grant family members, just two lawyers, one seasoned female judge, and Elijah, asleep in my arms. The documents were read aloud, each clause clear, brief, precise, final. The court grants full custody to Celeste Ashford. Mr. Grant Ashford is awarded supervised visitation rights. No applause, no tears. Grant didn't object. He simply lowered his head. A small gesture, but one that landed like a final punctuation mark on everything he once thought he controlled. I didn't smile, didn't feel triumphant. I just tucked Elijah's blanket and walked out. No victory is more beautiful than a truth finally acknowledged. No justice louder than the silence. That erases every doubt. I called the new organization the Second Voice. For children who've never been asked, "What do you think?" No grand lobby, no champagne, no ball gowns, cameras, or prestigious donors, just an old room, freshly painted, a brand new whiteboard, and kids sitting in a circle, their laughter ringing like the start of something new. A little girl picked up a marker and wrote the first line on the board. "I want to be heard." I nodded. That was enough. No medals needed, no Ashford name beside mine. I once thought success meant standing on a grand stage. Today, I know. Success is living your values, even when no one is watching. Elijah doesn't know how to read yet, but still, I write. Every word slow and steady on thick ivory paper, ink and memory entwined. They tried to buy your mother's silence, Elijah, but I chose to use my voice, because you deserve to grow up in truth, not in lies dressed up in $1,000,000 suits. I folded the letter and placed it in a wooden box. Alongside, his first ultrasound photo, the hospital's newborn ribbon, and a paper taped to our window. "Welcome home." I don't write to be thanked. I write so he'll never forget. His mother stood tall, even when the world begged her to kneel. One day, he'll open that box and understand. Dignity was the first gift I ever gave him. If you've ever been forced into silence, called a name that wasn't yours, pushed into a corner because of your skin, your story, your gender, remember this, you're not alone. I used to think I had to ask permission to speak, but the truth is, no one has the right to write your story for you. Today, I still stand before a whiteboard. No stage lights, no Ashford name, just me and the voice that once got silenced. If you're trying to find your voice again, write, speak, even if it's just one line, even if it's just a whisper, because when one person speaks up, others find the courage to rise too, and soon, an entire generation will live with heads held high. If this story touched something in you, like share or subscribe, not for me, but because someone out there needs to hear their own voice again.